Alright, so we went to sell platinum, 272,000 credits. It looks like for this one hauling night, we made 223,564,887 credits. It was actually pretty crazy. So before we go into the build, I want to add one quick note. I did not have time to add the low emissions power plant or the thermal spread on top of the power plant that we're using currently in this video, but I do recommend having this build on your Clippers mining setup. So for the build that we're currently using, we're going to have a mix of the pre-engineered mining lasers with a lot of size 2. So basically it's going to be every single size 2 that we had inside the Python, plus 3 additional size 1 pre-engineered lasers. Why do we use these? Well, they're a little bit more heat efficient. They also have longer range, so they have less fall-off distance. Their integrity is going to be a lot weaker though, so you're going to notice that we had some mining lasers that were occasionally having issues. That was because it's been 3 hours of mining, and we were testing to see like what was the most efficient way of doing it. We do have some heat sinks as well. Now for the power plant, I would also bump this up to a size 8A, and then swap to low emissions with the thermal spread, because that's going to help keep the lasers a lot cooler. So far, we're able to keep it about in the 80 range, let it cool off to 50, shoot it again, and it seems to work really well for us. So with thrusters, this is completely up to you. I always like to have a dirty tuning on my thrusters, that way it's able to move quicker. Mining ships don't necessarily need to move too fast, so if you want to downsize a little bit that we have longer jump range, that's totally your call. Same with your frameshift drive. You can have whatever frameshift drive you want. Although, the better the frameshift drive, the further distance you're going to be able to get, so I always recommend engineering this, and even having the pre-engineered jump drives are going to help much more. Life support, you can go with a 5D here. D is going to be a lot less weight, and on top of that, the goal is not to have your canopy crack, so 7 minutes and 30 seconds is actually a decent amount of time. Now, one thing they can't really go cheap on is going to be your power distributor. So underneath modifications, you always want to have a weapon-focused power distributor with super conduits for any vessel that you're going to be mining with, no matter what size. So obviously, we're going to want to use the biggest slot available to us, but if you're ever trying to like set up your own mining ship for something different, make sure you're using the max size with the same setup. Sensors, we have 5A for the distance, and fuel tanks just the default. Now for the optional internals, you're going to notice that we don't really have too much cargo. So we have 2 8E cargo racks, which come with 256. We have a 70 Mark II cargo rack, which is going to be unique only to the Clipper series. Then we have a 7E cargo rack. And then for the collector limpets, we have 4 5A collector limpets. The reason why we don't have size 6 is because they don't have them available in-game. We have a 3B operation limpet. Why do we have this? Well, you're going to notice this one has a max limpet size of 4 versus this one with a size 3, so it's just going to add more collectors to the list. We have a 4A refinery. This is going to have a little bit higher bin count compared to your Python, so it's going to be able to process platinum a little bit faster. And we have a 1A prospector limpet, which is basically going to be scanning the asteroids. If you want to change this build some, you can drop your refinery down to the slot 2 that you had in the Python and have a higher prospector. Why would you want a higher prospector? Well, the higher grades are going to allow you to shoot more than one prospector at a time. That way you can scan more asteroids. I find it a little bit easier to do one at a time though, but that is a possibility. You just have to make sure that it's an A class. You don't want anything below an A because A always gets you more yield. And last but not least, the most important thing on the list is a detailed surface scanner. Without the detailed surface scanner, it's impossible to actually find the platinum hotspots. So this is a must for all ships. Even after you scan it, you still have to have it on your ship or else you won't see the radius. And for anyone curious which planet we were on exactly, it was on the first planet, actually. And it's also where most of the fleet carriers are also going to be parked, so it's very easy to identify. It's the only one with a, well, I guess there's a small ring, but it's the biggest ring inside of the sector. So why would you want to come here? This ginormous zone in front of us, this is actually going to be the triple platinum hotspot. It's all going to be found literally right on top of each other. So the only thing that you are going to need to have mapped to your ship is going to be your surface scanner. Once you get to the location, literally all you have to do is shoot your probe. It'll scan the ring, and then you'll be able to identify it inside of your left side panel. So to do that, you just want to head over to where it says points of interest, and that's going to show all of the different mineable material inside of this ring. It's not just the platinum hotspots, they have several different rings around here as well. Now, why would you want to mine inside the Parrot's Head sector? Well, deep inside, we have a triple platinum hotspot. With a new updated clipper build, this ring's actually super efficient. So once you get to about 80, you want to let off the lasers, let it cool down just a little bit. Once it's down to about 50, you do another burst, and you're going to notice that the asteroids are going to be able to crack much faster. This has a lot more lasers compared to the Python. We do have 2 additional of the size 1 pre-engineered lasers. If you want to run with less lasers, that we don't have to worry about heat, that is another option for you. However, this is going to be the quickest way possible. Now, you're going to notice that we have a decent amount of collectors too. This is going to be roughly the same amount of collectors as what we had in the Python, except it has a bigger slot, so it's going to hold more collectors at once. And on top of that, we're actually going to have way more storage. You're going to notice that right now our max storage is 832, and honestly, we don't really have that many cargo racks on this guy. Plus, this is without any of the pre-engineered cargo racks, so this is all possible for just the standard Clipper Mark II once it comes in store. This is also, for anyone curious, the default Clipper. So it's not going to be the special rare edition, like there's no components that you won't be able to find in-game to make this build happen. Now if you missed it, we did a tutorial on how to mine with the Python. That one's going to be a little bit more of like a beginner area because it's going to be found in Capricorn B. Why would you prefer Capricorn B over the Parrot's Head sector, for example? Well, it's mostly going to depend on if there's a fleet carrier nearby that's going to be buying the platinum for a good price. Although, if you're a new player to the game, I always recommend selling to a station instead, mainly because it's going to count towards your trading reputation, which will eventually get you the elite rep, and then grant you access to a place that gives you a discount on everything. So it's always good to sell back to the game. Although, if you already have that done, then it doesn't really matter. It's mostly about the money. So, once again, for anyone curious about our firing order, we're going to have our collectors set to the same firing order as our primary lasers. Any lasers that are on the bottom side of our ship, they're going to be on firing order 2. So all the ones that have a 1 on them currently, those are going to be on top. We have 4 of the size 2 up there. And then we have the rest are going to be the size 1, and then we do have 1 additional size 2 on the bottom. The reason why you want to do that is everything that shoots... The reason why you want to have it set up like this, when your bottom lasers start shooting, that's where all of your chunks are going to start. So you want to start with firing order 1, give it a second, and then start with firing order 2. Then you'll notice that most of the chunks should all be down with the triple lasers down there. Now this is not a build where you can just hold it down the entire time. You will have to let off, or else it will get to the 100% mark, but once it gets to the 100% heat, it actually overheats the lasers anyway, so it's not going to damage your ship any when it comes to that, because it'll cool off instantly anyways, but I found it seems to be a little bit quicker if you get to about the 80% mark. We were doing a bunch of testing last night, and once you start staying out here for a while, some of your models might start malfunctioning occasionally as well. But it seems like if you keep it between like the 80 to 85% mark, let it go for a couple seconds, let it cool down to about the 56, start shooting again. Once it gets to about the 85 again, the asteroid's going to be cracked anyways with the metal lasers we have. So that's going to be your best bet when it comes to it. Now, what's the difference between this spot versus Capricorn B? Well, it has a higher yield for platinum, so you're going to find a lot more asteroids that are in the 66.67 bracket compared to before. So you'll have a lot higher chance of filling up much quicker inside this area. So it seems like we're mostly finding stuff in the 50s, but as you guys have seen, we haven't really done too many edits in this video yet, and it's literally just back-to-back platinum. Which is a fantastic sight, especially for people in the long haul. Now, once the ship does go in-game, if you don't currently own it, it's going to cost, I think it's like 240 million credits, so it is a pretty costly ship. But considering the fact that it's such a great hauler and such a great mining ship, I think it's going to be well worth the price. With that being said, we do have the Type 11, which is going to be the dedicated mining ship coming out soon, so I don't know if that's going to replace this guy. It's going to be hard to compete against the amount of storage that we have here, though. I'll be interested to see. As soon as we have the ship available to test, we'll definitely have a video out on it. Alright, so we have 819 platinum, roughly. That's actually a pretty good amount. Now, this was about, I want to say like 3 hours and 20 minutes or so. We were streaming last night and I forgot about the server reset. So that's how we ended up finishing off in today's video. That way we could continue the story from the stream and also show you guys this awesome sector. Special thanks to the people on Reddit who were able to point to this area. And for the guy who actually spent the time to scan the ring and actually find it, because it's a huge advantage over some of the other areas. Now, is this destination feasible for someone without a fleet carrier? That's where it's going to completely depend on if other commanders are currently buying platinum at a price that you find is decent. If not, we are going to be quite far away. So let me show you guys exactly how far we are. So we're going to be using Girak as an example. So the Parrot's head's going to be 877.19 light years away. Soul's going to be found a lot further inside, so I wanted to try to find something more on the edge. But even then, we are going to be quite far away from a place that's going to be buying platinum. So if you don't have a way to offload your platinum, you're either going to be stuck jumping very slowly, since most mining ships don't have the best jump range, or you're going to have like a friend's fleet carrier, or possibly selling to another fleet carrier inside the area. You can check an R to see if anyone is currently buying platinum, and maybe you'll get lucky and someone's buying it at a price that you find decent. But if you don't have one, it might be better to find a spot closer to the bubble. So speed-wise, comparing the Clipper to the Python mining build, it took us about 3 hours to get about 800 platinum. Now, if we're comparing that to last time, it was taking us a little over an hour to get 200. So we have 200 extra platinum, and also we didn't have to worry about going and selling every single time. So that also took off like 30 or 40 minutes afterwards, because the Python was about an hour and a half to hour 40 minutes since we kept having to leave to go sell. So having a larger ship is going to be more efficient, but it is going to be a little bit longer hauls for you to fill up before you get to your maximum amount. Now, as an added bonus for anyone who didn't know you're able to do this, for example, if you head over to spanish.co.uk/fleet carrier, you can set an exact destination so you know where to jump, especially when you're far away from the bubble. That way you're able to get there as quick as possible here. So today we're going to be inside of the Parrot Head sector. And then it'll tell you exactly where you need to jump. So we'll have 2 jumps. It'll take us about 170 or so tritium, so that's not too bad. So we're going to go to the Scorpius, then Grabil. Then use capacity. So if you're trying to find that, our capacity is 16,316. We don't actually have that amount of platinum, but we had a bunch of other junk on here. So then you're going to notice it's going to have a lot more tritium cost when it comes to jumping, but that's okay. So it's going to take us about 2 jumps. Once again, 190 and 81 is going to be your tritium cost. So it'll take us to about 271 or so. So with that said, to resolve those issues, you want to head over to your carrier management. Now, there's a couple different ways of doing it. The easiest way is going to be to head over to where it has your commodities. Click on Manage Market, and then you're going to filter, compare the filters, then what's in stock, because assuming you have that in stock. And like, for example, I was buying extra platinum because I didn't know how much, so we're just not going to be trading anymore. And now our capacity is 12,734, since we're no longer having a big buy order, which is going to save us a lot on fuel capacity. So if we calculate the same thing again with the same ship with that reduction, which we didn't do anything at all different, we're still sitting in the same seat. Now it's going to be 174 and 74 for the jump ranges. We're going to head all the way over to Grabil, find a place to sell, and let's see how much we made in 1 night worth of farming, which took us a little bit over 3 hours, which honestly, compared to what we were doing before, that's not too bad at all. That's a short night. So from this one run at mining last night, it looks like we made roughly 147 million. Now that's taking into account that most buy orders will be roughly 245,000. If this is actually the 290 that we saw in an hour, we're going to make so much more. So we want to be heading over to the main terminal here. Most of the time, large ships are always going to be selling at either major terminals or major ground ports. So it's a safe bet to pick that. Also, Nara does show the exact name of the place that is currently buying. And also, feel free to add a shield to the build. I was just running a shieldless build since I'm used to that, but I know a lot of commanders do like having a shield on their mining rig, so you can technically drop one of the cargo racks for that. That way you have a little bit of added security. Everything else is pretty essential though. You're definitely going to need a refinery, and you're definitely going to need a prospector. And the detailed service scanner, so none of that. You can get rid of the collectors. You could also drop one less collector, and that would also be a decent build. If you're wanting to keep the storage, it's just you'll be grabbing the minerals a little bit slower. Alright, so we went to sell platinum, 272,000 credits. Now, when we did the estimated total, that was with the galactic average at the time. It looks like for this one hauling night, we made 223,564,887 credits. It was actually pretty crazy. And then also we made some in osmium, but an extra 3 million. That's not too bad for one night. Now, there is another note to the build. Some mining commanders do prefer having the D-class collectors. Why would you want the D-class over A-class? Well, D is going to have a quicker fall-off range. They have a lot more opportunity for them to get destroyed, so you'll be placing collector limpets out way more frequently. With that said, though, it does decrease the weight on your ship, which then increases your jump range. So we'll see if they actually have any D-class collectors here for one. So currently we're at 21.9, it looks like. And with the D-class, we'll go all the way up to 22.2. So if you want to squeeze out just like a little bit more, you can technically. But you're going to notice the active life range is going to be much smaller at 780 meters. And it has a shorter lifetime span, and the integrity is a little bit lower. So you can pick and choose if you want to drop that. Now, another thing that you can do, I know a lot of people like running shields, so you can either get rid of one of the cargo racks, or you can keep the 832 and get rid of one of the collector limpets. I recommend keeping the operation limpet since it's able to have more, but you can swap like this out, then just throw on any shield that you want. It is a slot 5 though, so you can put a slot 5 shield in there and it should run, or if you want to go a little bit cheaper to save on weight, you can do like a 3 shield. That way it's a little bit less mass, and you'll be able to get that little bit better jump range. Now, if you opt for like fully using more hard points, you can either add in a couple like beam lasers for defense, but they're not really going to do too much in that slots. Another option though is you can add in like abrasion blasters or some of the extra mining tools that we have available to us, subsurface displacement missiles, things like that. Technically that would fit in those slots, and you can just have that set to like firing order C. Ooh, speaking of firing order, one last thing that I forgot to mention. Inside of the firing group, make sure you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, and that's where you're going to find your operation limpet, and make sure you have it selected for collector. If you don't have it, also I recommend having a hotkey set up for your heat sinks, but you can also put this on a firing group over inside of B or C in case you need it. We didn't need it the entire time we were mining, it was just some slight modules, but that's how we made 235 million in one night of mining, which is actually pretty crazy. And it turns out it's going to be about, let's say 4 hours with the travel time, since we had to jump twice in a fleet carrier, so that's about 30-ish minutes of jumps and a little bit of wait in between. So 4 hours, 235 million. That's a decent profit per time. Hopefully this guide helped you discover one of the best platinum hotspots inside of the game. If it did, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about the Clipper build. We'll have the Coriolis build layout down in the description down below. That way you guys can see the exact build, and I'll have the correct power plant on there. And see what you guys think. Would you change anything, or would you keep this build the way it is? But I think it's worked pretty good. We went 3 hours, we didn't have any like major issues, so I'm very satisfied with this. It's going to be really interesting. Do you guys think that the Type 11 is going to be able to take on the Clipper Mark II as mining, or do you think the Clipper Mark II is still going to be a little bit better because of the storage? But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, Commanders. Hope everyone has a good afternoon and evening. Hope everyone has a good afternoon, evening, and morning, and I'll see you guys in the next one.